Hello and welcome, my beloved sisters, to the Goddess of Love Temple for the Rose Circle. It's Elaine Kalila Sophia here, and I am offering this as a gift from my heart to yours. We had our live transmission temple today, and unfortunately, it did not record in its entirety, and so I am re-recording. So who knows what transmission will move through, but it'll be perfect. So let us take a moment to welcome you all who are here to revisit the Goddess of Love, and all of you are here to enter the Goddess of Love temple. As artful priestesses, we are being called to embody her love, to truly walk as that on the planet. And since the artful priestess is all to do with our embodied practice, moving into the world, I invite us this moon to enter into the frequency of pink, the frequency of Aphrodite, Lakshmi, Lalita, the frequency of the beautiful roses from all hues, from light pink through to deep pink, the frequency of swans and doves and apples and the mimosa blossoms, the frequency of almonds, the Vesica Pisces, all of the faces of the goddess, rose quartz, all the ways that she shows herself to us in the beauty and resplendence of nature and art and all things that are sensually divine. Hail and welcome, Goddess of Love, calling us all present to her holy, sacred temple, this ecstatic body, this aspect of the Goddess of Love that bridges the worlds. The Goddess of Love is the aspect of the divine feminine that is both vertical in the sense that she is aligned with divine love, divine intoxication, and the connection into that beauty of the divine. And she's also connected into the horizontal plane of the intimacy of interpersonal relationships. And so she sits in the axis mundi, the central point between those worlds. And so she is about bringing through the embodied form of the divine through our senses, through our visceral body, through our ecstatic union in form. And so this moon is all about communing with her in all of her faces. And the face that I am inspired to bring to you today is the face that calls us to the attunement of beauty. Beauty. What is beauty? I want us to feel for a moment into the word beauty. For the Goddess of Love says, I feel, I respond, I beautify. That is her mantra, to open the heart to feel so widely, to deepen into the response to that feeling, and through that feeling, through that embodiment, to beautify everything that she gazes upon, that she touches, that she is present with. And so we are called to the exalted temple of this incarnated body. For it is through the realm of the senses that we experience beauty. So let us speak into this for a moment. Beauty is a feeling. It is a felt sense inside of us. We know when we are in the presence of beauty. For beauty uplifts and inspires us. Beauty opens us to the numinous, to the ephemeral, to the absolute awe of the divine as it filters through into our world, into our bodies, our hearts, our relationships, into the natural world, into the art that we make. Beauty is a resonance. Beauty is a vibration. Beauty is a pathway to the divine. I want you to feel that for a moment. To really feel that beauty is not a commodity. Beauty is not something we need to get, something outside of ourselves. Beauty has been relegated to a position of being something that can be bought and sold. And we are sold beauty all the time. We are sold the secrets to becoming more beautiful. The obsession with the fashion industry and the makeup industry and the skincare industry is not in its essence about elevating us to beauty. The commodification has meant that we have to have that in order to be beautiful, in order to try to be beautiful, to be more beautiful. And we live in a world where beauty is understood in such a narrow frame. We do not understand what beauty is from the ego mind. Beauty becomes a status symbol, and it becomes something that's rarefied and owned by those who have money to own it and power, right? Great pieces of art are sold for vast sums of money because that beauty is wanted to be owned. And through owning that beauty, maybe I will be more beautiful. I will have more access to the divine than you. So I want you to feel how beauty has been co-opted and how so many of us have grown up believing ourselves to not be beautiful. I want you to really feel that for a moment. The shadow of beauty in our culture is vast. And I speak from a position of vulnerability in my own self as one who has felt herself to be not beautiful. One of the stories that I identified with most deeply in my growing up years, and well into my 20s and even into my 30s, was that of the ugly duckling. And the ugly duckling is the quintessential story of not being able to see our true beauty. For as you remember in the story of the ugly duckling is born into a family and feels itself to be less than. For the family that it's born into appear to be these beautiful swan-like creatures. And the ugly duckling feels like it doesn't belong. And it feels awkward and frumpy and shy and ill at ease in its body. And it compares itself to all of its brothers and sisters who appear to be so much more elegant, so much more in the flow, so much more beautiful. And as you know, the story goes that one day the ugly duckling was walking along all alone, feeling sorry for herself, feeling like she wasn't part of the party. And she looked out onto the waters and she saw all her brothers and sisters playing and gliding and swanning about. And she looked over at them and she felt separate, and she judged them for their white feathers and their long necks. And she felt in awe of them, and she felt like she could never be one of them. And she compared herself, and she found herself to be less than. And then they beckoned to her and they said, come play with us. And she shied away. And then they said, come play with us. And as she waddled down to the water's edge and she bent over to go into the water, she looked down. And she saw a reflection. And the reflection that she saw coming back toward her was that of a beautiful swan. And she gasped, and she couldn't believe it. And she looked again, and she gasped. And then she realized that she was one of them. She was a swan. The essence of that story is that beauty lives within all of us and that we all belong here, and that beauty is an inside experience. It is a feeling of understanding and knowing that beauty is not something outside of us, but something that gets cultivated from within. And when we peel back the layers of the eyes that project outside, the veils that have us look through the eyes of comparison and the eyes of judgment, and we choose to dissolve those veils to see who is here, we can begin to feel into what real beauty is. So I want you to drop in with me for a moment and let us feel into what is the feeling of beauty. Beauty is an awe-inspiring experience. To be in the presence of real beauty is to be in the presence of the sunrise as it rises above the ocean in the morning, and those subtle pink and orange rays go against the silver glassy of the sea, and we get to feel that opening in ourselves and that part of us that goes and shudders awake in the presence of that beauty. It's in the presence of a baby, when a baby looks at you with its innocent eyes and its open heart, and you cannot help but be completely intoxicated by their presence. It's in the moment where you share your truth with your beloved and you crack open in vulnerability and you soften and you let the mask of what you think you need to be in order to be loved dissolve, and you let the truth of your beauty shine through. It's in the moment where you smell the rose and you bury your face in her petals that are velvet and soft, and you breathe in her intoxicating scent, and you let yourself be touched. Beauty is an experience of intimacy with the beloved in all things, the blessing of all things as consciousness, all things being seen through the eyes of beauty, awaken in presence. The goddess of love invites us to walk the path of beauty, seeing through the eyes of beauty, touching with the hands of beauty, thinking with beauty in our minds, transmitting this frequency that is in a harmonizer. Beauty is so sought after because it connects us to the divine. In the 13 Moon Mystery School lineage, we speak about beauty as being a pathway to the divine. And you only run it once you feel that. How the practice of presencing beauty in our everyday life connects us out of the mundane into the profound connection with all that is. It expands us. And the goddess of love is everything to do with expanding our capacity to feel more, to be more touched, to be more in love with life as it lives through us. You are beautiful. Who you are in the essence of your being is a rarefied form of beauty. Beauty is an energetic that harmonizes, that uplifts the vibration of everything that it touches. So when you walk into a room where someone has paid attention to the aesthetic of beauty, as simple as that may be, you feel its presence. It is numinous and yet omnipresent. In the placement of objects in space, creating a vignette, creating an energetic field, creating a sense of resonance. We feel it. And beauty is everything from the simplest single flower in a bottle on a plain wooden table to the most opulent, extraordinary Beaux Arts building with scrolls of gold and jewels dripping and plush sofas and chandeliers and delicacies being passed around. There is nothing to compare here. They are both imbued with beauty, because beauty is not one thing. And our concept of beauty having been so narrowed means that we are impoverished in this world. Beauty is like a sustenance to the soul. Our soul literally withers and dies in the absence of beauty. It is as if we lose our thread to what is really here in our humanity, our divinity and humanity. And my heart could break from the feeling of what happens when beauty is cast out, when beauty is commodified, when beauty is narrowed down and diminished. And so in our Artful Priestess circle, in our rose gathering, we are the rose, we are the center, we are the nectar, we are the ones who are being called to walk this in the world. That is what it means to be an artful priestess, to bring the art of beauty alive in your practice, to bring the art of who you are as beauty embodied. I can feel her energy moving through me as I'm speaking, imploring you to break the bonds of any part of you that has ever believed yourself to be not beautiful. I want to share with you from one of my favorite all-time books by a man called John O'Donohue. Some of you may know of him. He is no longer with us in physical form, but his beauty exudes. And he wrote an entire book called Beauty, The Invisible Embrace. And I want to share with you a section from this book this day. There are so many sections of this book I could share, but this is the one that has come. A beautiful thing, though simple in its immediate presence, always gives us a sense of depth below depth, almost an innocent, wild vertigo as one falls through its levels. The experience of beauty has, for the most part, a particular force. It envelops and overcomes us. Yet there are also times when beauty reveals itself slowly. There are times when beauty is shy and hesitates until it can trust the worthiness of the beholder. Human culture seems to build its temples of meaning in the wrong places, in the garish marketplaces of transient fashion and public image. Beauty tends to avoid the siren call of the obvious. Away from the blatant center, it prefers the neglected margin. Beyond the traffic of voyeuristic seeing, beauty waits until the patience and depth of a gaze are refined enough to engage and discover it. In this sense, beauty is not a quality externally present in something. It emerges at that threshold where reverence of mind engages the subtle presence of the other person, place, or object. The hidden heart of beauty itself offers only when it is approached in a rhythm worthy of trust and showing. Beauty emerges in the relatedness between us. And yet, it is not something that we objectify. Beauty is an experience of the nexus point of my heart opening and meeting your heart. That is where the beauty lives. When I open to engage with the flower, the rose, or the piece of music, or the piece of chocolate, or the strawberry, or the sense of silk on my skin, it is in relatedness between us, between my being and that being, that beauty emerges. Beauty is an intimate experience. It is not something to be consumed. It is a rarefied field that offers us the great possibility of connection into our greater self, into the all that we actually are, the magnificence. It is an alchemical force that changes everything when it is present. It is the nectar of the honeybees. It is everything that we bring into the presence and we cultivate our awareness of it. And so I want you to feel how we're being called to cultivate beauty, to walk the beauty path. There are so many ways, and the way that I want to speak into for us as artful priestesses in our embodied practice this moon is to begin to tune into our senses for a moment. The Goddess of Love says, I feel, I respond, I beautify, I expand through your senses, the 5 senses, the sight, the ears, the taste, the smell, and the touch. And the Goddess of Love opens the portal up for us to enter into this incredible temple and to extend our capacity to sense through these sense organs, these organs that are leading us deeply into the embodied experience of love, of beauty, of this feeling of expansion that is based not on the ego mind's desire for more, right? In order to secure the beauty or hold the beauty or own the beauty. That's the consumerism. That's the vibration of consumerism that keeps us stuck in a very narrow sense. Now, this is the principle of expansion that has us breathe into and awaken and expand our capacity for ecstasy in our bodies, for joy, for bliss, for intoxication, divine intoxication. This is the aspect of the goddess that has us attuned to the senses as a portal for expanding our capacity for ecstasy, for living heaven on earth in embodied form. So I want you to think for a moment, just to tune in, of your 5 senses, which ones are you most attuned to? Which ones are you most connected to? Is it your sense of sight? Is it the hearing? Is it the taste? Is it the touch? Is it the smell? And this is the truth, right? Most of us have been here a while and we're pretty attuned in our senses. Although what I have found through working in the Goddess of Love is not only do usually we have 1 or 2 senses that we are predominant in, many of us have dulled down our senses, have dulled down our feeling navigation through believing ourselves to not know how to enter into the field of beauty or the field of love, right? That we have become mired by living in a world that does not revere beauty. And so the Goddess of Love is bringing back the devotion of beauty, the reverence of beauty, the love of beauty, not as something to own and not as something to compare, but as a pathway that connects us into the truth of who we are as essential beings. So these pathways of the sense organs live in our physical body, but they don't just live in our physical body. The expansion, when we begin to enter into the more subtle realms of taste, sight, sound, smell, and touch, transport us into ecstatic states. They alter our brain chemistry, they alter our auric field, they alter our capacity to travel dimensionally. I know every one of you has had this experience at some point, and maybe often, where you've been so moved by a piece of music that you have been literally lifted out of this physical body and transported dimensionally into a world where you are different when you return. where you're changed by the presence of that sound and that beauty, where your cellular being is vibrating at a completely different dimensional octave, and you're transformed. You're broken open. I know every one of us has had that experience of tasting something exquisite and allowing it to dissolve on the tongue and to reach every part of the palate, and the smell and the taste and the feeling that comes as we become one with that sacrament. Because that's what happens in the presence of beauty, is we experience through our senses all things as sacrament. And a sacrament is imbued with vibrational food. It ceases to be physical food, but to become vibrational light food that moves into expanded states where we are able to shine the light of who we are so much more brightly, and where we become conduits for that energy in the world to transform. This is where beauty is a radical act of love. When we choose to walk through beauty, seeing, being, embodying, inviting beauty, we start to change things in our own lives and also in the lives of those around us and in the collective matrix. I know every one of us have had the experience of seeing something so beautiful in nature, a sunrise, a sunset, being at the top of the mountains. I remember one time traveling up to Zermatt in Switzerland, which is a very high part of the Alps, and taking a cable car up, 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 up. And when we arrived at the top of this mountain, getting out and being completely awestruck first by the intensity of the chill, the frozen chill in the air, but more so than that, being hit with this extraordinary ultraviolet light that was so crystalline and so clear and so bright that I was so awestruck by the beauty of this light that I could not go away from it. Like I felt transfixed. I felt myself wanting to merge with it, which is the other aspect of the goddess of love, this desire to be one with. And I know that we've all had these experiences. And these experiences are not just peak experiences. Goddess of Love says this is a way that you can choose to embody and live. So this is part of our Artful Priestess practicum for this moon, is to choose to feel into the senses and to notice which ones are really developed in you and which ones are less developed. And maybe choose one of the less developed ones and begin to develop it. I have another Goddess of Love story to share. You know, I've been sitting in the Goddess of Love temple for over 10 years. What that means is I've been holding the Goddess of Love temple as a temple pillar for the 13 Moon Mystery School community. And I've been holding this temple, which means that I'm dedicated to bringing the Goddess of Love energy into the world through my offerings and holding for her alchemy on the planet. So I've had some practice with this. But one of the senses that I feel so grateful to have been deepening into, you know, I have a natural sense of visual beauty. That is one that has been developed in me since I was a little girl. I've always loved color and shape and form, and just the placement of things together has always been extremely nourishing for me. And I've had the great fortune in the last few years of being with a beloved who is a musician. And I have had the great fortune of being exposed to a vast array of very different kinds of music. And I have been transported by tuning into a new way of listening to music, of becoming the music. And this experience has been so deeply nourishing for me as a being, so deeply opening to really develop this subtlety within my own being, this subtle feeling sense that when I can now enter into music in a completely different way than how I used to, I can commune with it. And I can commune with a vast array of different kinds of music and have those vibrationally enter me and gift me their medicine of beauty in all of its forms. So I'm going to ask you to choose one of the senses that you want to deepen with. It could be touch, it could be smell, it could be taste. And the practice this moon is going to be awakening that. So if it's taste, choosing to really, really enter into the Epicurean delight of food and all of the tastes, right? And letting yourself become communed with those tastes, with that food, with that energy, letting yourself have the sacrament, the blessing of that, to raise your vibrational energy to that of beauty. Or it could be through scent. For me, that's another channel that has been so profound through the work of my beloved sister Diana Dubrow, who is a scent priestess. And the very first time I ever entered her temple, I was transfixed and transported by the essential oils. And those have become a large part of my own priestess practice and my medicine and my vibrational medicine, and the beauty of the blending of oils together into a cacophony, a symphony of smell is so uplifting, so opening, so transporting, so filled with beauty. So whichever sense it is that you choose to deepen in with, I want you to feel the invitation from the Goddess of Love to expand into it, to open yourself to receiving her. And the other practice, along with opening the senses, is to choose to see through the eyes of beauty. And this one is a radical practice. To choose to see the simplest moments as beautiful. For beauty is not always found in the opulence. It is also found in the simplicity. To find the beauty in the moment of washing the dishes, of feeling the warm water on the hands, the sensual delight, the rainbow colors in the soap suds, and the cleaning of the dishes, and the delight of the resonance of the clean dishes as you purify them and offer them in great adoration, and feeling the beauty of that simple act, or the beauty of making the bed, and smoothing the covers and the sheets and fluffing the pillows and adorning the bed in whatever way pleases you most. The beauty of that. The beauty that's present in a simple touch as your friend holds your hand in delight at seeing you. The tender moment of being cracked open when you catch the glance of someone that you love, of the beloved, and the kindness and the truth and the vulnerability of their gaze. The beauty of our hearts unveiled to one another, the tears that pour forth when we let ourselves be seen and when we unmask ourselves from having to be anything other than who we are. The beauty of that contact. The intimacy that holds the gateway to the tender, shy beauty. As John O'Donohue said, the beauty emerges when the beholder opens to receiving it, to being present. Beauty flourishes through your gaze, beloveds. And when you bring the presence of beauty to the world, it's incredible what unfolds, what's possible. So just feeling with me right now, this expansion in your cells, literally bringing more light in as you expand the capacity for pleasure, the capacity for ecstasy and aliveness, the capacity for erotic, sensual delight. The goddess of love is everything to do with becoming a sensual adept, which is not necessarily sexual, although it can be, but it's actually about communing through the senses with life. The sacred communion where we cease to be in separation between subject and object, and we merge into that central point. The goddess of love holds the mystery of the Vesica Pisces, the two circles that overlap, right, to create the sacred third. That is the realm of beauty. It's that sacred third. Beauty exists in the moment that we meet. The communion between you and the flower is what brings beauty into experience. So there is an aspect of our embodied practice which is about communion. And you'll have heard me talking about this before with the Lady of Communion, and because this communion is at the heart of our path of embodied divinity. The desire to move into a unified field. Beauty is a unifier. It's a resonant frequency that unifies. Wisdom unifies, love unifies, truth unifies. Any of the higher Siddhic principles are based on the same thing, unity. And we know when we're in the presence of a higher vibration, spiritual, energetic, because it will seek to unify. It will create that in us. And so beauty is just another pathway to divinity, which, in other words, we could say is a pathway to unity awareness, unity consciousness, to seeding and grounding in physical form the embodied awareness of a unified field. So you may be called to bring beauty to places that aren't necessarily beautiful, and yet to find the beauty there is the art. I had a sister ask me just recently, how do you work with beauty? How do you bring beauty to those feelings that may be dark or heavy? And I asked her to contemplate it. And when she came back to me, she said, it is by being present to those feelings and not separating from them and inviting that all is beautiful. Even those moments that are painful have beauty within them. And you know what I'm talking about. Even in the heartbreak, there is beauty. I want you to feel into a place where you've had your heart completely shattered open. And to feel the capacity that that brings to us, to feel beauty inside the vulnerability and the tenderness. My heart just about breaks every day if I truly let myself feel. But that breaking of my heart is some kind of gift from the goddess of love that tenderizes me and that brings beauty present. And beauty is just so fleeting that every moment that we can have that is beautiful is such a treasure in this life. And so cultivating that, cultivating those moments is such an art. And so I'm inviting you, if you're called to the goddess of love, to deepen with her, with me, to really choose this. I'm aware in this moment of embracing the beauty of the grief and the loss and the melancholy and the ecstasy and the joy and the pleasure and everything in between. And that path is one of alchemy, right? Where we're truly bringing ourselves into a place where we are present with all of it. And we can find the beauty. The soul is nourished by beauty. And when the goddess of love is absent in our lives, when she is absent from our planet, we literally wither and die. The gardens die, the crops die. So anywhere that you can spread the light, the intoxicating light of beauty, to cast that light and illuminate, that others may feel and respond and choose to beautify too. What a gift. More offering from the beloved John O'Donoghue here. True beauty is numinous. When a person has beauty, her presence is full of radiance. In German, they say such a person has a groß Ausstrahlung. I probably said that wrong. Literally a flowing forth of radiance. The individual is no longer confined within the frame of her own identity. There is a light in beauty which no frontier can limit or contain. It has a distinctive dignity. Like consciousness, beauty shines with a light from beyond itself. In medieval thought, Albert Magnus spoke of beauty as the brilliance of an object's form shining forth in its sensible presence. Beauty is not to be captured or controlled, for there is something intrinsically elusive in its nature. More like a visitation than a solid fact, beauty invests the aura of a person or infuses a landscape with an unexpected intimacy that satisfies our longing. True beauty cannot be invented or manufactured. We cannot bear very much reality. Neither, it seems, can we bear very much beauty. The glimpse, the touch of beauty is enough to quicken our hearts with the longing for the divine. Beauty never finally satisfies, though. She intensifies our longing and refines it. Were the human person simply soul, beauty would be an absolute embrace. We are, however, threshold creatures of deep ambivalence, and when beauty touches the matrix of human selfhood, it can be just that, a touch. We are here to cultivate that touch of beauty, to open to receiving those moments and presencing them in our lives and with one another. For it is the way in which we know the presence of the divine in those moments when we are deeply touched by the presence of beauty. The goddess of love holds the portal open for us this moon to practice this together. So just to recap, I'm inviting you to see through the eyes of beauty, to choose to develop one of your senses, to be exalted in beauty, and to choose to become aware of yourself as a sensual being. So you're going to develop one of the senses as a practice, but also become more aware of the information that's coming into you through your senses. You know, our senses are the way in which we receive information from the external world and have it actually become internalized. And the goddess of love is in that relationship, that sacred relationship, where she, I want to say it this way, where subject and object come into sacred union and are neither one nor the other anymore. She holds that threshold gateway of the Vesica Pisces, where relationship is where the sacred third is born, and beauty is of that element, the numinous, the impossible to capture, even though we try in this culture to buy it and sell it and own it. The nature of beauty is not that. It is a feeling. It is a presence. And I am awed to be in your presence, beautiful ones. And this moon, I want to be with you in the intimacy of this temple more than anything. I'm really, really excited because I know at least one of the offerings that's coming your way is our beautiful Lee Senna, who is the quintessential artful priestess, is going to be bringing to us her pleasure medicine, where she creates balms and elixirs and yoni butters and breast oils that are all to do with awakening beauty in the body. So I know that this is going to be an extraordinary offering. And I look forward to deepening in with that and developing and deepening into our self-love beauty practices that are not about needing to fix the body, needing to put on lotion so that I don't look wrinkly, for example, but actually putting on the lotion as that act of beautiful self-love and really imbuing everything that we touch ourselves with the essence of beauty. So, with that said, my loves, I am honored to have been here with you. May we walk in beauty this moon. May we be touched by one another in extraordinary ways. So much love to you. Blessings.